It's no secret that we Americans likes our vehicles. Our cars, trucks, and vans. Our gas-guzzling, road-raging, shitty-smelling, air-polluting, and loud Detroit muscle. Our precision-engineered German, Jap, Korean, Swedish, Italian, anything but a Yugo, little metal monsters. You know we crazy about a Mercury or a little Deuce Coupe, pink Cadillac, Mustang Sally, little red Corvette, 409, old 55 Grease Lightning. And we spend our time racing in the streets, going mobile. Always looking for a thing called radar love. And we have fun till our daddies take the T-bird away. We sing, ride on, Josephine, ride on. And baby, you can drive my car. And of course, all my friends know the low rider. Dun, 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 dun. We even have the audacity to ask the Lord to buy us a Mercedes-Benz. And sadly, sometimes we take our last kiss out at Dead Man's Curve, while our pappies cry, son, you're gonna drive me to drink it if you don't stop driving that hot rod Lincoln. Yeah, we love our cars, and we always remember our first one. At the risk of sounding like a weenie, I admit that I name my cars. I got Tan Morrison parked outside right now. And my wife drives Dora, the Ford Explorer. But it all started with Shadowfax, named after the stallion that Gandalf rode through Middle-earth. During the summer between my junior and senior year in high school, I bought one of my father's company vans for $1,000. It had low mileage, but had been driven hard by the roughnecks who worked for him. Company vans get no respect. And I knew she was a risky buy, but this wasn't just a car. Not just a Pinto, Gremlin, or that strange white-ass beast known as the Pacer. This was a van, man. A party on wheels. Guys be calling it a stabbing cabin. And the mystery machine and shit. I could paint a friggin' unicorn on the side of it if I wanted to. Or a glorious sunset. Or a badass Grim Reaper. Keep your granny's LeSabre. I had a van. A 1973 Ford Econoline van. Spacious and white with windows all around. It smelled like an oil spill, and the tranny was about shot because it kicked into gear like an ornery mule. I offered Shadowfax the opportunity to leave the corporate world behind and to ramble around in style, to be my chariot and enhance my role as high school bon vivant, and to help facilitate my long, strange trip. But first, I needed to pimp my ride. The first weekend I scrubbed and cleaned and swabbed the decks like a sailor on speed. And when done, well, it still smelled like a lube job, but I didn't care. My friend Dave and I cut plywood and secured it to the metal flooring and then installed some cool red carpet. The floor was warm and kind of soft and so inviting that I camped out in it the first night. I planned to install insulation on the sides and cover it with paneling and put curtains in the windows because, you know, what happens in the van should stay in the van. And I was going to install a bitchin' sound system so we could kick out the jams, mother stuffers. Turns out, though, every improvement I made to that van was done in the first 2 days. I never got insulation or curtains, and I never painted a unicorn on the side. And my kick-ass sound system turned out to be a temperamental 8-track player which blasted tinny little sounds from 2 speakers hanging from loose wires, dangling like ivy throughout the van. I had 4 8-track tapes. The Sublime Dark Side of the Moon, the beloved Abbey Road, and a couple of raunch and roll classics that I loved as much for their names as for the music. I had the smoker you drink, the player you get, and a wink is as good as a nod to a blind horse. Yeah, it did. And later, ZZ Top's Fandango mysteriously showed up. Lord, take me downtown, I'm just looking for some tush. So it's summertime, and I drive to the Rhode Island beaches and up to Maine to camp, where I run out of gas at the top of a big hill and just coasted all the way down and slipped right into a gas station, which is very lucky and very cool, and to see the Grateful Dead at Colt Park in Hartford with 8 tie-dyed knuckleheads jammed in, and to the Shabu Inn under the Orange Water Tower to see the John Mayall Blues Band, and like a speed-crazed Neil Cassidy at the helm of Kesey's bus, Terry the Road Warrior drives back to the beach the next day. Further. I go to every corner of New England, and I'm constantly driving to parties and to work, and guys be asking me to haul their shit around, and I'm always hitting dudes up for gas money, and I got 2 speeding tickets in 1 week, and I even drove to Florida as car number 2 in a caravan with my parents, losing them in South Carolina, and scaring my younger cousins and sisters by saying that we probably will never see my parents again, and that they should save their gum and bananas because we have no money and we'll probably get hungry. And I racked up 6,000 miles that summer until I realized that Shadowfax had become everybody's bitch. So I get all hostile and I tell my friends that somebody else has to drive sometimes, but then school starts, and I gotta drive my sister and a couple other Catholic kids to Catholic school, which was 30 minutes away. So paint the shadow yellow, because now she's a friggin' school bus. And I'm always afraid the tranny's gonna fall out, but I'm still in charge and love being Captain Fantastic in my righteous van. The decor improved when I found a beat old couch and a couple of crap lawn chairs on the curb. So there was room for 5 in the back and 1 in the passenger seat. Then I start recycling newspapers for like $1 a ton because I constantly need gas money. So the van fills up with dozens of grocery bags filled with newspapers, and people be laying on them and tossing them around and generally being disrespectful to my business enterprise. So the back of the van was always a mess and smelled like an oily paper mill. Every day I drove the crew to school, and sometimes drove even more kids home because everybody knew we were kicking it in that van, and I really didn't mind being a bus driver because I was in charge of what went down, and if you didn't like it, you could walk. So one day I took a corner sharp like Joe Mannix, and the long-legged Kelly Sheehan in her Catholic school dress was ejected from the lawn chair and bounced around the back for a while, arms and legs flailing like a rag doll in the pulpy morass of the newspapers. Oh, but that was good crack. So I repeated that maneuver whenever possible. And the time I gunned the gas and Jamie Alonso went flying backwards out of the lawn chair, that was the day I discovered that she didn't wear underwear. So from then on, Shadowfax was known to buck a little whenever she sat in that chair. Now when you're in high school and you got a dope ride, you need to be visible. Since it's senior year and you think you're king shit, there's only one place to park for maximum effect, and that's in the corner of the lot, farthest from the school and the attention of the teachers. So the hipsters park in the coffin corner. Not coffin like a casket, but coffin like hacking up your lungs on dope, pot. 3 vehicles stood out in the coffin corner. Shadowfax, Killer McCrory's exact same 40 Econoline van, only blue, and the enchanting Ed's Ark, a former milk delivery van owned by Ed Sedlowski, who woke up one morning to find that his artist sister had painted on the side in stylish calligraphy, Ed's Ark, all animals welcome. Plus the party girls, Betsy and Kathy, parked their cute little VW Bug there until the day its engine melted and oozed into the back seat. So clearly lots of stuff went down in the coffin corner. A couple of times a week, some buds would jump in shadow at lunchtime and head to the local cemetery to smoke a doob. Time was of the essence, so the operation required perfect execution. meat, split, drive to the boneyard, feed our bellies while simultaneously feeding our heads. It took 7 minutes to return to school and sneak in through the little used back door near the athletic fields. An integral part of the caper was to listen to Paul Harvey on the radio at noon. He told his sappy little tales about Abraham Lincoln or Admiral Lord Nelson with weird twists at the end, and he always concluded by saying, "And that's the rest of the story. I'm Paul Harvey. Good day." And as soon as he said the magic words, "Good day," I would start the engine, and all pie-eyed and silly, we would return to school to further our education. As senior year raced on, our insatiable appetite for hijinks and shenanigans continued. So we decided to journey up to the Berkshire Mountains for May Day, an all-day music fest featuring Arlo Guthrie, Richie Havens, Jesse Colin Young, Taj Mahal, Muddy Waters, and others. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I drive Shadow to the Ponderosa Steakhouse. And Ed, of Ed's Arc fame, a trusted Ponderosa employee who had the keys to the joint, fills a huge cooler with ice, which we fill with beer and head to the North Woods. The music was great that day, but my clearest memory of the day was of the ride home. For starters, some clown opened the side doors so that for most of the trip I drove with doors open on the highway, with 5 or 6 fools goofing around in the back. But the real memory is the great bong water incident of 1977. It revolves around John Lindbergh, whose name backwards is Naj Grebnil. At 6'4", Naj was a large man and a standout basketball player. He was also a show-off and a braggart who tried to outdo everybody in every human endeavor. If you were eating McDonald's, he would walk right up to you and say, and bellow, 3 Big Macs, 3 fries, and 2 shakes. And then he would roar. And he was trying to impress, and you're supposed to be impressed. He was a dolt, a bit of a dim bulb who was easily goaded into demonstrating feats of Herculean strength. So when a couple of guys challenged Naj to drink a full chamber of bong water, he said he'd do it for $20. Big money in 1977. Yeah, good money. I hear all this nonsense as I drive, knowing that this will not end well. So Naj drinks the vile brew and almost yaks, and rightfully demands his money. The idiots deny him his due, and he goes insane. He throws one of the lawn chairs at some fool, and it almost flies out the door. He's wailing on guys and throwing newspaper and shit, and it's like a zoo back there, and I'm yelling, "Knock it off! Knock it the fuck off, you idiots!" When somebody throws something at me, and it's like a food fight with empty cans and shoes filling the air and newspapers flying out the open door. And when I look back, Naj is on top of somebody, strangling him, and the guy's head is hanging out of the door as I'm cruising 70 miles an hour. So I pull over so we can regroup. And Shadowfax smells like bong water for a month. But all is forgiven, and they pay the man for his incredible work, and we all man up and part as friends. So there's graduation and more trips to the beach, and I had a good run with the Shadow, but then I had to sell her to raise cash for college. Despite some reservations, I sold her to Mr. Benson, a neighbor and patriarch of the infamous Benson clan, and father to my sometimes friend and sometimes nemesis, Bruce. Each of the 4 Benson boys was an arrogant, brash, untrustworthy scoundrel. The acorns did not fall far from the mighty oak that was Mr. Benson. They were the kind of people who actually would take candy from a baby. Or worse yet, steal your girlfriend when you were a freshman? Yeah, Bruce probably did that to some guy. They ran a company called Rainbow Vacuum Cleaner, and I cringed to think that Shadowfax would soon be adorned with the lame-ass, multicolored Rainbow Vac logo. 2 weeks later, I heard that the tranny went out on Shadow. Yeah! Booyah! Those hillbillies accused me of selling them a lemon. Shadowfax? A lemon? Screw you, Bruce Benson. She took me from Disney World to La La Land, from the coffin corner to the graveyard, and to all points in between. She was not just a May to September romance. She was my first, and will always be, in my memory, magnificent.